I kind of feel like doing that again. That was awful. So do you mind, Rachel, if I do that again? We're out of practice. Okay, going again. Good evening. Hi, Rachel. Hi, Karen.
Hi, Mark. Hey, Mark.
Welcome back to the Plugged In podcast, episode number 9. It's been a while since we've been together. Tonight, we're joined by Karen Dillon from Comcast Business. She's a longtime friend of mine, actually. We've known each other for about 10 years. And Comcast has been a longtime sponsor of ACPE, and they are here to sponsor the podcast tonight.
Thanks, Mark. As Mark said, I've been here for 10 years supporting the ACPE team. For the record, I was 21 when I started. So really, just calling that out.
So was I. Just kidding.
Yeah, I don't think you were as gray back then as I recall you being now. But hi, ACP and friends. As Mark said, my name is Karen Dillon. I'm with Comcast Business. I specialize in government and education. My team strictly focuses on government and education here in Washington and Oregon. I've been on this team for 10 plus years, and I'm excited to join you guys on Plugged In. By the way, this is my first podcast, so bear with me. When I think about the ACPE community, one word comes to my mind. It's connection. Not just the technical kind, but the kind that builds bridges between districts, IT leaders, students finding opportunity. And that is what drives us at Comcast Business as well. Over the years, as I've supported each of the school districts and been a part of ACPE, I've long admired how each ACPE member school district lifts each other up. You answer questions for each other, you share lessons learned both positive and negative, and make sure that other districts do not have to struggle alone. We in our GovEd team celebrate that approach and utilize it in our interactions with you as well. So we learn from you, and we also try to share knowledge with each of you to be a better partner. As most everybody knows, Comcast is known for fast speeds, but that's just really the starting point, right? That's just like icing on the top of the cake. What sets us apart in education is the full suite of advanced and managed services that are layered on top. We know K through 12 IT teams are stretched thin. Instead of battling vulnerabilities, outages, and site-by-site issues, we help free your time so you can focus on moving education forward. So, Mark, can we take a couple minutes and talk about what the cybersecurity landscape looks like now?
Absolutely.
All right. So, did you guys know, Rachel, Mark, did you know that cybercrime is the third largest economy in the world after the US and China? Crazy statistic.
I think Rachel knew that. I don't know that I did.
Yeah. When I heard it this week, I was flabbergasted. Research from cybersecurity firm Checkpoint found that the education sector was the #1 target worldwide for cyber attacks in 2025. Let's break that down a little bit more. Nationally, nearly 82% of K through 12 organizations faced a cyber threat last year, with thousands of confirmed incidences disrupting classrooms and critical operations. Let's bring that to our backyard. Not naming different schools, but locally here in Washington, we've had to cancel multiple school days after a cyber attack, shut down key systems in one of our local school districts. You can find this on GeekWire. Another district lost phones, internet, access to grading systems, and attendance systems after unauthorized activity. You can find the article on GovTech. These events are not just statistics, right? They mean missed instructional time, frustrated staff, and families that are left without communication. The need could not be greater. Cybersecurity is now one of the top issues for schools. That is why this work matters so deeply. And we at Comcast, our GovEd team, want to partner with you because you're not alone. You have ACPE, you have your peers, and you have us. I'll take a quick minute to kind of talk about how can Comcast Business help. So we help schools protect themselves with smart, easy to manage solutions. Couple of key things for you. We offer EDR, endpoint detection and response. And for some of you that are, not technical like me, let me share what that means. This protects individual devices like laptops and desktops. It watches for suspicious behavior and stops threats before they spread. It's like having a security guard on every device. We offer MDR, managed detection and response, which is 24/7 monitoring. Our team keeps an eye on your network, investigates alerts, responds to threats in real time. And for schools with small IT teams, this is a huge help. It's like having a full cybersecurity team without the cost. And then the last big thing is Meraki Stack. Meraki is a cloud-managed solution that makes networking and security simple. Schools can manage Wi-Fi, switches, cameras, firewalls, all from one dashboard. It's easy to use, scalable, and includes a built-in protection for content filtering, intrusion detection. All of these tools together, you guys, work to give schools full coverage from the classroom to the cloud. And because they're cloud-based, there's no need for heavy hardware or complex setups. This is a OpEx versus a CapEx model. I'll give a quick shout out to our ACPE leaders. Let me take a moment to pause here. Technology is a tool, but people make it meaningful. You, the members, are the ones that make sure learning continues, whether students are in person or remote. So what a stress that you have to deliver on that every single day, right? You're the ones that are protecting sensitive information and enabling educators to thrive. Those efforts don't go unnoticed. We see your dedication every single day. Every one of us is a part of this community through our kids and have been for years, right? Mark, last, and Rachel, my call to action for the team. Our goal at Comcast Business and our GovEd team is to stand with you as a trusted partner, not just a vendor. You guys have known me for a long time. We want to reduce risk, create space for leadership, build secure networks that scale with your needs. If you're curious about where your district stands today or how to prepare for tomorrow's threats, we're happy to connect with you. We're offering complimentary network and cybersecurity assessments. Both Mark and Rachel have my information. Look me up on LinkedIn. Most of you probably have gotten an email from me at some point or another. In closing, I look forward to working with everybody. And Mark, Rachel, and ACPE, thank you for this opportunity to support the community. I'll say it one more time. I'm Karen Dillon with Comcast Business, and it is an honor to partner with you guys and support the incredible impact you make across the Pacific Northwest.
Karen, don't disappear right away.
Yes.
I have two things for you.
Okay.
Number one, I think you're wearing like a retro t-shirt that I'm totally into.
The more you know.
My God.
BC show.
Yes. Oh, what a good throwback. The more you know. And then, so we're going to have like somebody Comcast Business come back because as all of my Oregon peers, when they hear this, will be rolling their eyes about, I am super interested in pushing security out to the network layer and really curious about what Comcast and other kind of large ISP and national partners are doing in the quantum space, right? Like the prepping for quantum, pushing security out to the network layer and out sometimes beyond the managed detection and response or the endpoint detection and response.
Absolutely.
So it was really great to listen in to your opening, and we really appreciate you as a sponsor of our baby Plugged In podcast, and really excited that you were here with us.
Karen, we can't wait to see you at the conference.
Yes, I'll be there.
That is this May, so it's going to be awesome.
All right.
Have a good night.
Thank you, Karen. And thank you, Comcast Business.
Absolutely.
I have known Karen for a long time. The Olympia School District has been a longtime customer of Comcast for managed fiber. And that was how I met Karen. Just is just kind of my backstory of where we're at right now. But when I approached Karen and said, we were talking about our service, and she said, well, it's interesting. Comcast is almost more of a cybersecurity company anymore. And I said, well, we're having a cybersecurity episode. Do you feel like sponsoring? And she said yes, and it really came together quickly. So thank you, Comcast Business, for doing this. And I'm sorry, I'm going to out you on this, Karen, but she told me yesterday, she says, I don't do this. I have people that do this and I can't get a hold of anybody. And I kind of chuckled and I said, you're doing it this time, because I love Karen and I really wanted to hear her message, because she truly does believe that philosophy of the Comcast. And it just was really nice to hear it from the person I get to work with the most.
He came through. So we've been blessed to have Jeff from Gaggle as our first sponsor. Karen, again, another friend, just a wonderful way to do this. So yeah. And so this is, you and I, when we were kind of devising this middle block of episodes, this is number 3 of 3 that are related to cybersecurity or information security, as I like to say, right? Information security is fruit. Cybersecurity is an apple. All apples are fruit, but not fruit. All fruit are apples.
You're making me think too hard.
Information security is more than just the cyber stuff about ransomware and the things that are in the headlines. So on our first episode, we had April Murdoch, our amazing, esteemed friend now at WSIPSI. It's their Chief Information Security Officer, I believe is the title officially. And then on our second episode, we talked about student privacy, student wellness, the intersection with all of these information gathering tools with your boss, who sits, I think you said, right above me, right?
Right above me.
Dr. Patrick Murphy and Dr. Susan Enfield, formerly of Highline School District, is how many of us know her in the ACPE world, and now at the University of Washington.
Yeah.
So we're
Yeah,
plugging.
and you said that we talked with. We didn't talk much at all.
We did.
on
We
that
got to
one.
listen a lot on that one.
Yeah.
So it was lovely. And
Yeah.
this is a domain that I think it will continue to be a big part of our community conversations leading into the May conference.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what are you
Awesome.
watching? What are you listening to?
Well, I think that we have a lot of catching up to do. So
Yeah.
folks don't realize that we don't have a set schedule of when we record these. We do it when it's possible. And then summer happened, and we've all enjoyed summer a little bit.
We did.
But now that we're back to school, we're getting some episodes recorded and ready to go. So some things that have happened over the summer, I'm trying to think of notable things. From a pop culture standpoint, I have a whole slew of new shows that I've been watching, but I do want to note that I've had a number of people say to me, the best part of the April conversation, the April episode, was the two of you talking about video games. And I think Rachel cut a lot of that out too. We talked a lot about video games, which was pretty great.
Yep. We have a number of B-sides tracks we'll drop from that episode.
But I'm going to mention 4 shows right now because that's just kind of, and I haven't watched a lot, honestly, but I think I mentioned Smoke. Did I mention Smoke earlier? It's the one about the arson investigator, but I think it's Taron Egerton who was in The Kingsman. He played Elton John in Rocket Man. He is an arson.
We discussed that I'm old, so you could have very well talked about Smoke. I did not retain it.
If I did, I didn't get, I wasn't anywhere in the show where it actually made any sense now. And it really kind of blew my mind, and it went a whole direction that left me going, whoa. So on Apple TV, Smoke, arson investigator, and working with the police officer there. Season 3 of Invasion is back on Apple TV, which is a fun alien invasion show that is very disjointed and hard to watch sometimes. But I've been kind of hooked on the show Lazarus. And Lazarus is on, what's Lazarus on? I think it's on Netflix. It's a sort of time travel end of the world show. And it's apparently in season 2 because I'm watching season 2 now. But really kind of fun show that I've been watching. But catching up on Wednesday because the new Wednesday season is out. And I did get the Wednesday chicken nuggets at Wendy's the other day. But 2 things in the movie realm, and then I'll let you talk, Rachel, because I've been hogging this whole thing. Did you know that they're filming a new Spinal Tap?
I have
Do you
heard.
even know what Spinal Tap is?
I have heard, and I've heard we're going to turn it up to 12 this time.
Yeah, we'll turn it up to 12. But I am so excited for Spinal Tap. It was one of my favorite movies. And being just such a weird, mockumentary kind of movie. We could talk about that later. And then they are filming Super Troopers 3.
Oh my gosh.
I'm so excited.
Okay. Those are totally legit things to be excited about. And it's really neat the way this stacked up because I was chuckling as you were saying your movie list because I was going to take it like a left hard fork, a different direction. But then you said Wednesday. So we have a good little Venn diagram overlap there. And I do I think Smoke is on my list. I haven't tracked Invasion yet. And then I'm interested in Lazarus. So Wednesday, but I am revisiting a Hulu very cheesy romp that is a series based on 4 Weddings and a Funeral, the old Hugh Grant and Andy McDowell, thank you, movie. Yeah, and very funny, just like very funny British comedy. So Hulu made a series out of it. I'm revisiting it because of something somebody said randomly at a dinner time conversation, and my kids and I watched it when they were in high school, and they were so honked off about the characters that they actually made a Google slide presentation ranking the characters worst to best. And I still have it, and I still look at it and chuckle every once in a while. And so Tony one is the one with the trash can icon.
Okay.
So anybody who's watched Hulu's Four Weddings and a Funeral, you'll be chuckling now because you know the Tony 1 and the Tony 2s. Those are wonderful. And then similar, not Spinal Tap, but I was on a plane this summer. Mark and I did realize that we actually probably needed to schedule a summer break from PluggedIn. But I was on a plane and I snapped a photo of a movie I was watching and sent it to Mark. And I'm like, what am I watching? And in 2 seconds, he's like, Scott Pilgrim.
Oh, I love Scott. Scott Pilgrim is such a good movie.
I forgot just how good it is. And it was so great. It was a really lovely way to spend kind of a plane ride where I was not in the most comfy seat. And oh my gosh, just fantastic. So it's good to catch up on movies. I have a whole bunch of music stuff coming at you, and I just haven't gotten my schedule figured out to actually organize it. So wait for episode 10.
Perfect.
And it's it's not just me telling you what I'm listening to, but there's going to be like a Marc interactive element. But for now, I want to hear also what our guests are doing
Well,
and watching
I
and listening
just
to.
real quick before we bring them in, because they're both going to just stare at me and go, "What are you even talking about?" If I say this before or after they come on. In the weird new tradition of having a pseudo rave at ACPE, in 2 weeks, if anybody listens to Two Friends Big Booty Land, Big Booty mixes, which are awesome, by the way, they are just total mashups. Like every 20 seconds they change the songs, and they do like 100 songs in an hour and a half. It's the ultimate, just like put it on and enjoy. They do a lot of EDM music. They do classic rock. They do country. They mix it all together. And the last one they dropped in Seattle, and it was just a sold out show. I'm going to go see them in 2 weeks. I'm pretty excited. So going to go see Two Friends in LA. So it's going to be super fun.
And so
anyway,
I'm going to get the contact info for Two Friends, and I am going to
we should tag them. We should tag them on this on the podcast.
And then I'm going to text them and offer them $1 million to play the cha-cha slide and call out Marc Elliott to get on the dance floor and lead it.
They would probably take you up on it.
I know.
But
$1 million.
I think we should tag them. I think that would be pretty great. Okay, so let's get to our guests. What do you think about that? We have 2 guests tonight, and I think if folks were paying close attention and noticed, our sponsor tonight was talking a lot about cybersecurity. This is our 3 of 3 for our cybersecurity series. And so we have a couple of guests tonight that are going to help us chat about that after we get through what they've been watching. The first is a person that I got to work with a couple of years ago. His name is Kevin Meckler. He is an attorney with the law firm Cipriani and Werner. And that law firm deals almost exclusively with insurance companies that are handing off data breach situations from the people that they cover. Is that correct?
Yeah, mostly. The firm itself does a lot more other things that I do not do. Our group within there is almost exclusively dealing with insureds that have run into some form of cyber problem.
Perfect. And Kevin and I got to know each other pretty well, sadly, through our interactions. But Kevin, if you could give a little, just a brief, who you are, and yeah, let's introduce you to the ACPE folks.
Am I doing what I'm watching as well, or do I have to wait for the?
Well, we'll wait.
Okay,
I think
I'll hold. So Kevin Meckler, let's see, I'm by the beard. If you're watching on the video, you can tell I've been doing this a long time. So I'm an old school litigator that went to law school before cyber was a thing. So this didn't exist actually for the first probably 10 years of my practice. Somehow turned into, I did a lot of fidelity work, did a lot of construction dirty work, and went to work at a carrier, and in doing so was there right as they launched one of the earlier cyber policies. And I guess they looked over and said, "You're kind of a nerd, do this." So I started doing some of that while mostly doing some other things, but really got involved in the cyber around 2014, 15, somewhere in there, and had then left the in-house role and gone to outside counsel, where now I get to be the one who gets to represent the clients. Yeah. So I basically wake up every day and I get new people that are having the worst professional day of their life. So nobody calls me except for Marc to just be like, "Hey, what's going on?" Everybody calls me because the house is on fire. So no, it's actually, I don't know how I managed to do it. I guess I just kind of lived a life of chaos, and this is a perfect job to be in a life of chaos.
I think, and thank you for that, Kevin. And I think nobody in our organization who knows me is at all surprised that you said, "Oh yeah, Marc's the only person who calls me to not describe the worst day in the world." Right. And let's take a look at this shirt you're wearing.
So I was just gonna say, I'm gonna bring Chris on stage while we're chit chatting.
Yeah.
I
do live in South. I do live in Florida. I had a son graduating from here, and SEC football is, well, it's pretty much life in a particular region of this country, and so it is Florida versus all y'all.
It's a thing.
And except for last weekend when they lost, and we're not going to talk about that.
Yeah.
Marc, you had a heads up about this shirt, so you have a counter.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't let him do this by himself.
I mean, it's not a counter. I'm
representing the Ducks tonight, obviously. And so, I wish it still was the Pac-12. It is no longer the 2-team conference now of Oregon State and Wazoo. Sad, but
technically, if a gator and a duck got into a fight, I'm pretty sure the gator would win.
I don't know. That duck does a lot of push-ups, is all I'm going to say.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
So, Kevin, cybersecurity was not a part of my entry into this career for the first 10 years either. So glad to have you join us. Chris, you want to say hello and introduce yourself, our friend and fellow ACPE board member who may also have a cybersecurity Venn diagram, speaking of Venn diagrams,
You
to this
bet.
conversation.
Yeah, new board member. Thank you. Yeah, appreciate it. Chris Bailey. I'm the Director of Technology in Edmonds School District in Washington State. We're about 20,000 students. I've been there almost 18 years. I've been in a handful of different roles. I am a recovering victim of a cybersecurity incident. It has haunted me for about 2.5 years. And I have the pleasure of getting to hopefully help others to think about how they can avoid the pain that I know Mark and I have each gone through in our professional careers and having to talk to guys like Kevin. No offense, Kevin.
I never admitted to that yet.
Mark told me it was the best couple of months of his professional career,
Absolutely.
actually.
So good. So good. Well, thank you, Chris, and thank you, Kevin. And you got to listen to us talk a little bit about our pop culture stuff. And if you have anything to add, we would love, I'm always on the lookout for new shows, quite honestly. So
I'm ashamed in this audience. I don't feel like I watch enough TV. And I think in another audience, I'd be like celebrating that. But in this scenario, I don't watch enough TV. We watched Lego Masters Junior the other night. My kids really enjoyed that. That was a lot of fun. We're big on Lego Masters. We watch the Sounders whenever they're on. We're big soccer fans. So they just won Leagues Cup. Shout out Sounders. There's a couple games in the next couple weeks. We'll watch that. We like the Wrexham show, following the team overseas. Yeah, so that's kind of what we're into.
So I heard you guys talking through. I have Smoke is on my watch list. Haven't gotten to that one yet. Did watch the first 2 seasons of Invasion. One of the more random shows I've
it's so
gotten into.
hard to follow.
And season 2 ended horribly. But I will go to the Super Troopers 3 because when it was when my son was, I think he was 14 at the time, and I had a day off and decided to go pick him up from school without asking my wife if that was cool. And so I snagged him out of class and we went and saw Deadpool 2 and Super Troopers 2 in back-to-back movies on the same day. And I was like, I just remember telling him, Mac, you can't say anything. Mom will lose it. And we made it about halfway through dinner before he recited a line from Super Troopers 2 that I won't recite on this show, to which my wife, not even seeing the movie, just immediately looked across the table at me and said, excuse me? And I was like, well, we went and saw a movie today, possibly 2. It didn't go up, but I did not know the third one was coming out, and I assure you I will be sitting front and center for that one.
Oh
Kevin, please tell everybody what your wife does for a living.
So, my wife is a district administrator for our school district here. She is the director of early childhood learning and a 22-year educator. So she is very, very well prepared to have what she now calls, since we have no children at home and they're off in college, she always will tell everybody that she will never have an empty nest. She's very well prepared to take care of me.
And you're just describing what Chris is also moving into now. So, something tells me Chris isn't going to cut his kids out of school and go see Super Troopers 3, though.
I highly recommend. It's fantastic.
That's like Dad of the Year territory.
So we plan stuff
my
like that.
My daughter was mad.
We plan stuff like that. We call it, like, not the yes day necessarily, but like a mental health day. So we will take them out, but they know about it and we know about it, and we just go do something fun. Try to do it once a year.
Nice.
Perfect.
But don't tell the
I love
school
it.
because they were sick. They did not feel well that day.
Right.
Perfect.
Yep. Tell it like it is.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that. And Kevin, I don't know that I ever told you, because Kevin, we're trying to get Kevin to come to the conference and speak on some cybersecurity topics with us. We do a little mini rave at the conference, and it's really fun. And people have really come to enjoy it. We do it in the tree houses. And thank you, Julia, for being our 2-time DJ for that. And if anybody's interested in following Julia, she's starting to get paid professional gigs in Seattle now. And it's pretty awesome. So shout out to Julia for that. But kind of to come back around to our topic, Rachel, how do you want to jump into this? Because I really don't want to just embarrass myself through all of this.
Well, so Kevin, I have a question for you that's going to lead to maybe another question. Is it okay if we start high level and then we kind of work our way into some of the
Absolutely.
details? So at Cipriani and Werner, so you're on speed dial for the insurance companies, is that right? Like they're connecting one of their clients to you for the legal side of the guidance on the incident?
Yes, the short answer is yes. So typically the clients show up because they've filed a claim with their cyber carrier. So something has happened, they've reported it through, and we are on panel for a good number of the insurance carriers. They will then refer it down so that basically the purpose of it all is ultimately most companies, most organizations, most government agencies, they don't have the team of people who focus on this. They have parts of those teams and they're necessary parts of the team. But their day in and day out is not how do I investigate, address, and recover from this. So really what it gives them is here's all the team of professionals to work with you and go. So it normally will come down through that. I hate to say this because it's kind of a weird practice where I tell my clients, except for Mark who didn't listen to me, I don't want to talk to you again when they're done.
Pushy.
It's weird to have a client and be like, I hope I never see you again. Unfortunately, I see them again. And so, I have a lot of relationships that have built up where when they have a question or something odd is happening or they have a repeat, they will come direct and I just tell them, hey, you probably need to funnel that through your carrier. But
Yeah. And then, so is your role, are you broadly helping manage risk for the organization? Are you more, and by the organization, I mean the impacted district or organization at that point, are you technically in the weeds with them, like a run book that you do for each of the incidents? What's kind of your sage on the stage, guide on the side role there?
yeah, it's a lot of hats. I mean, I will tell you, and I joke a lot about it, but I will tell most of my clients, listen, we're going to get in the weeds. We're going to be serious. I'm going to make jokes because if you don't laugh, you're going to cry. Like we have to there's a lot of work to do. We're going to get through it. But and I've heard people say this term. I don't know that I like the way it sounds, but it may be the only appropriate one, kind of the quarterback of the investigation in one sense, right? So it's almost like a project manager, but I have to wear a legal hat throughout. I have been doing this a long time and I am kind of a nerd, so I know a lot of the technical speak. You would never want my hands on your keyboards ever. I will blow up a computer faster than anybody. But what we do is bring in the technical resources to do that, right? So a lot of what I do in parts of it is translation. Where with this group, we may be able to talk right through the tech stuff and everybody's good. When I have a 10-person CPA firm that has no idea other than that I press the button and my computer comes on and my forensic guy is spewing off all of the things that they have found and need to find, I have to take that and be able to translate it. So as a former trial lawyer, it's to me, my clients are my jury. I've got to make them understand or we lose. So I'll do a lot of that. I'm a therapist a lot of the time throughout a lot of this, business consultant a lot of the times throughout this. You sort of bring it all there. But at the end of the day, I take it as my baby and my responsibility to put whatever needs to be there, put it there, whatever needs to happen, have it happen, and then just guide the process and guide the client.
Yeah. May you be as good as an LSU quarterback when you're in that quarterback role.
I'm sorry. Did you see the shirt I'm wearing? And do you know who LSU is playing this weekend? So, funny story. I actually had a new client today that is in Baton Rouge. And I ended the call by saying, listen, if y'all could be so kind as to just take it easy on Saturday. It's been a rough start to the year and it's going to get rougher in Death Valley, but please just be kind. Take it easy. Ugh, LSU.
Well done. I'm glad I picked the LSU.
I'm not.
It was a total sniff on it. Yep.
I have a daughter that is currently at Auburn University. And again, my son graduated from UF. So LSU doesn't like either of them.
Perfect. Thank you for helping set the kind of context and the role. I think one of the things that we think about in those first calls is that in the really starting back in like 2014 and 15, when the insurance companies became very interested in this work because suddenly Lloyd's of London and AIG were not going to backstop and underwrite the reinsurance policies for the carriers closer to us. It was that nobody knows anything. You call your insurance company, they connect you with an attorney, everything is a cone of silence. It makes it hard for us to learn from each other in more broad settings. But Chris, I know it's changing a little bit now, but was that similar when you were waking up to a bad day?
As far as the cone of silence around what we discussed and whatnot? Yeah. I ran a lot of the communication that I sent out publicly to my friends in ACPE. Presentations. I did a blog post for COSIN around our incident. I ran that through our breach coach, which is how we were kind of guided to refer to the law firm, the folks that we were connected with, like Kevin, to guide us through the process. And that was really helpful for me because I didn't really know at the time what are the things that I can't really speak about, what are the things that we don't know enough to speak about. So having them be kind of a filter was really beneficial for me in ensuring that I'm not putting my organization in kind of a sticky situation, and just ensuring that I'm only speaking to things that we know, only speaking to things that we can say with confidence, I guess. So that was really valuable.
Can you walk us through some of that, like the initial steps?
So it was about 2.5 years ago, and typical school day, I think it was a Tuesday, but I was in the office, and mid-morning, one of our teammates said, "Hey, something weird's going on," so we started to get some of the common indicators you hear about when someone's in your environment that shouldn't be. And so we went to our kind of our command center, our emergency response room, and started digging into what we were seeing. And by like 11, I think we were meeting with my boss, who's an assistant soup, and our superintendent with hold on, we got a dog.
I heard him come he was sleeping in bed, and I heard him hit the floor and knew he was going to come in because Dad's in the wrong place.
Who's this?
This is Sawyer Brown.
Love it.
Hey, Sawyer. All right, buddy. Go ahead. Come on. All right. Sorry about that, Chris.
Oh, good. No, that was worth the break. Absolutely. So it was before lunchtime, we had pulled the plug on our internet and we had shut down our virtual environment because we saw enough to know that we wanted to make sure nobody that shouldn't be in our environment was in our environment. And I think that was a really good move. It wasn't before, I guess, damage was done, before there were signs of access, but it was early enough that there was no ransomware event in our environment. And I have absolute confidence that was coming. So we got ahead of that, which felt really good, right? So that was, I think, a positive for us. I've said this before, but I think it's worth mentioning again, the support that we had from district leadership to trust us in that situation, to say, we're seeing enough that we're not comfortable with leaving things how they are. We want to just yank everything. They said, do it, without hesitation. And that was so cool. We had an interim superintendent at the time, and she's now our soup, but we did not have a great relationship just because we hadn't worked together very long. And the trust that she showed in that moment was huge. And I know that it saved us much worse heartache. That said, so internet was pulled, and it was 10 days before we met the different benchmarks that are the district staff, the breach coach that we work with, and our forensics team felt needed to happen in order for us to bring things back online. And so we had 10 days where school was not shut down. We figured out everything we needed to figure out in order for kids to be picked up and kids to be fed and HVAC to function and students to learn and teachers to teach, so that we had 10 days of learning without internet, which was wild, right? It was the dark ages. Some teachers loved it, I will say that, but I would not do it again. So that was 10 days of pain. And then it was probably another 3 weeks before all students could get back into their accounts, because that was a 20,000 password reset issue. And we needed to get EDR redeployed to everything. And we did have some recovery of systems from backups that we knew were good. So yeah, it was a painful month. It was a devastating month in a lot of ways. We're entrusted with a lot of stuff, and it definitely felt really bad for a while there. But yeah, there you go.
Chris, had you done any tabletops or any kind of because again, it wasn't necessarily at the very beginning of the cyber threats, but I know that many of us haven't done tabletops. So was this something that you had a chance to practice? And I'm wondering about those communications teams, right?
Yeah.
That you meant on HVAC, the actual school buildings, security, things like that? Or were you building your incident response plan that you have today based on what you walked through then?
Yeah. Good question. So the folks that I work with in leadership and technology, we have several managers that are kind of a part of our leadership team with me. We all went through a COSIN cybersecurity course together the previous fall. So we were pretty well versed in the lingo, in the order of operations, in the key players we needed to engage with. We did not have a formal guide that was telling us what to do when. We had that shared experience, and that included tabletop exercises and exploring different incidents that happen in other organizations. So the four of us were really tight, I think, and that helped us tremendously. Everyone kind of fell into their role really nicely, as far as, this is my team, this is the sorts of things that we should be focused on, the things I need to be thinking about, contributing to the dialogue. And then for those other groups that you mentioned, largely, we essentially established that technology needed to focus under district leadership's guidance on recovery, and that those other groups needed to, first of all, give us some grace to focus on recovery, but also to determine what is it they really needed in order to be able to function, and what could they do independent from us in order to be able to function. And so, for example, food service is used to being able to scan a student's card and bill for students. They didn't have that for about a week and a half. And so they had to figure it out. And going analog is not ideal, right? It results in a tremendous amount of paperwork, a bunch of data entry after the fact. And that was their reality. And it was really painful. And I know that they suffered probably for a month or two beyond the incident, just trying to recover from the impact on them. But that's what they did in order to ensure that students could still learn and that we didn't need to close access to our buildings.
Rachel, if I jump in for one thing, I a couple things that you said, Chris, and I mean, it sound weird. I kind of wish I would have worked with you on yours.
Although I do got to work with me.
Like I said, I really wish I would have gotten to work
next
with
time,
you, Chris.
but we're not going to go down that path again.
No, but one of the things you said, I think is so. It's really important here is when you have that cone of silence. I mean, there is a baseline for why, and these things. Some of it is truly to protect. Some of it is because there needs to be a focus by the team to be moving through the incident undistracted. And I know it frustrates people, but if I go out and say, "Hey, this just happened," you're going to get 20,000 questions, and you don't have the answer yet. It's just not there today, and it may not be there for a week or 2 weeks, and then frustration builds. But one of the things, and this is, I promise, not pandering to this audience, but I tell every time I represent a school district, and unfortunately, I've had the pleasure of representing a lot of them, they are the most resilient organizations out of any of the organizations I work with. It is like a teacher will teach. You could turn off the lights. You can tie their hands behind their back. You can stuff them in a closet. They will be teaching from the closet. Like, they will teach. And it's not going to be perfect, but they're going to do it. And so as you're going through your story and you're talking about that, yeah, there are, and I start with the teachers because I'm biased since I married one.
Same.
All of the other parts of that school, though, they all fall right in line. And I do think it's an amazing organization it's why I enjoy representing them, partially because I know the pain, but partially because they're just so resilient. The other thing that you mentioned, and really, Rachel, on your part, is that, the table topping. I do, as part of having to live through, at this stage of my career, probably thousands of these type of events. I like working with entities to help them build out that incident response plan. And it's wonderful, except when you take a plan and put it on a shelf, it's just a piece of paper sitting on a shelf. And the table topping, even if you don't have a plan in place, even if you're using that to build the plan, it's critical. And I can't tell you the difference it makes when I get on a call for the very first time. I don't know who my client is. I don't know any of the players. I can tell you in the first 5 minutes whether they have one and whether they've tabletopped it. And if they have not, and it is a ransomware, we are in for, I am trying to make up time in that first 72 hours. And they're going to be, I guaranteed, of probably 3 to 4 days behind the other organization who did.
Kevin, you just, number one, you're speaking my love language. Number two, the teaching with their from the closet with their hands tied behind the back, especially if they're kindergarten teachers. That's just their daily.
My wife was a kindergarten teacher, by the way.
Their daily thing. But that idea, as I kind of mature through this decade of listening, learning, testing, trying things out, a lot of my role is getting in front of leadership and getting them to care about this. So superintendents, school boards, not just the technical leadership team. I think we've already mentioned it on a prior podcast, but I often start with payroll, right? Like, you had a tight payroll deadline. Now it's just leading a district. You are leading a district. It's not about technology and servers and what the tech team is doing. It is about communications. It's about plan Bs, all of those things. But you touched on this idea of, I think you said something like, even if you use the tabletop to build your incident response plan, I'm actually finding that to be more meaningful incident response plans. It's producing more meaningful incident response plans than taking a template off of whatever K-12-6 or CISA or any of the other and filling in blanks. Because then you find out one of the ones that does is phones and HVAC. They're spoilers. And if we're talking wintertime in Central Oregon or wintertime,
or August in Florida when we start school.
Yeah, those are kind of big deals.
Yeah, and actually I prefer it that way unless, and I'll point at you, Chris, like you've gone through it, so you have the live fire to build it. If you have not, it's one of my favorite things is to sit at that table and just start throwing curveballs in. And, at some point someone's going to look and be like, that doesn't happen. I'll give you 15 cases that happened on last week. Like that's what's going, I hate quoting this, but it's my favorite quote in the world was Mike Tyson. Like everybody has a plan until you get punched in the face all day long. Everybody's got a plan until you get punched in the face. And the tabletop is really about doing that because you got to look up at somebody and never thinking about that. Oh, wait a minute. Food services has to actually scan this and it goes back into the system to debit the accounts that are sitting there for those students. Now I got to sit there with a pad and a piece of paper and make sure that the fourth grader is giving me his real name because I don't know what his name is. And I've got to put down the amounts on it. And somebody's got to go put it in next month when those systems are back up. There's a lot to it. So I love the table topping and I think it's critical.
Go for it,
Kevin
Mark.
loved me. Your first assessment was like, God.
Yeah, ask any associate that's ever worked on a file with me, and if they would have heard your voice, they're like, "Oh, great, Kevin's gonna love this guy. They're gonna be perfect together. Let them, just let them go."
Well, I do kind of want to come back around to something that I do know about Chris and their situation and one of his neighbors, and this kind of comes back to, and believe me, none of what Karen said as a sponsorship thing was prompted by us. She just knows us.
That is
she
wild
knows
because she knows
ACPE.
ACPE because my notes were she must know us very well because
Yeah.
the words that she used resonated with me at a level I never would have expected
Yeah.
for a sponsor to just be kind of introing cybersecurity. That was really wild.
And I have a feeling you know exactly what I'm thinking about, Chris. So take it away.
Yeah. So we were in the heat of it, right? And we were probably 3 days into our incident, but I'd been getting notes, from my neighbors saying, "Hey, I understand you're going through it. I don't want to bother you, but let me know what your needs are, and we're there for you." And so it was probably a week and a half into our incident where we established a need for us to get out to each of our schools to support students at our high schools with this passive reset function, right? So we had probably a dozen folks from 4 or 5 different school districts that work alongside our staff to support getting 10,000 middle and high school students logged back into their accounts. We probably could have figured it out without them. The fact that they were willing to send their bodies, their FTE, to help us to get through the fire was huge. And that is now the first thing I do whenever I hear about any ACPE suffering, because I don't know what good we can do, but if we can do any good, we need to pay it forward. And that absolutely helps. Again, whether it's about the FTE, if you will, or not, the fact that I know I've got people in my corner when I'm going through the fire is huge.
I mean, that is just a testament
That's
to
awesome.
what I've always believed is the heart of ACPE. We're all pretty good technologists, pretty good. I mean, some are better than others, but we just are a really, really tight group. And Kevin, for you, I hear that from vendors all the time. Like, we know that if we say anything to one of you in Washington or Oregon, you're all going to hear it. And it comes in a lot of times in a place from love of like, you support each other so much that a lot of these conversations move pretty quickly through your community. And I know for a fact, didn't you send some folks over to your big neighboring district, Chris?
Yeah, absolutely. We've sent folks to a couple different districts at this point. We'll continue to, whenever we can be a resource. Obviously, we've got a lot of staff that have now gone through it at different levels of the organization in IT. And so there's some value to that, right? One of the things I think that went well for us is that we as a organization, as an IT team, we kept level heads, right? We were intentional about taking a methodical approach. We're going to do whichever solution is going to give us the best chance for success, even if it's a slower solution, a slow and steady approach. And that allowed us to, I think, be really thoughtful and intentional about recovering in a smart way. And so we've got that experience now. And so I think we've had staff in a number of different roles in our organization that have jumped out to be a partner or an asset to others as they're going through it. Granted, they're all in the cone of silence, right? So there are limits to what we can do that's going to be beneficial to them. But there's also a new Washington State consortium that's being built to allow for people to professionally aid others as they're going through cybersecurity challenges. So there's some new stuff coming on that front too. I think April might have spoken about that.
I will tell you, there is, and I'm going to applaud them for it. Arizona as a state has built out essentially, and I don't know if they still have the partnership, but at one point they had a partnership with CrowdStrike where they were pushing it out to it was available to run for any of the state agencies, local governments, etc. And I represented a couple of cities in Arizona over a pretty certain window of time that had been hit with ransomware. And they have it set up very similar to what you're saying, where when I said, do you need boots on the ground? Do we need to send people out that are going to be able to assist? There were folks from all of the other cities that were showing up at the door. They have a couple different law enforcement agencies that sort of head up and get in there and worked side by side with the team that was helping through. When I say expedited, unbelievable the difference it made. And it was one of those things where there is still parts of it, like they're not going to be sitting in strategy sessions. They're not going to be talking through a lot of the legal pieces, but when it's, I need someone to put hands on a keyboard in these 27 locations, go put hands on keyboard. You're just doing work. And I love hearing that about ACPE. I can tell you the difference it makes, because again, if I have to send from one of my vendors to get guys out there, it's going to take twice as long, if not longer, especially for some of the more remote districts. It's a pain to get to. Whereas neighbors, and then more importantly with that, I think, Chris, you sharing your experience. Look, there are folks out there that have never had it, never seen it, don't know it, and think they're okay. That's the ones that, you're sharing this. Listen, that's how they're going to learn, because they're going to trust you. When I tell them, they're going to go, you're doom and gloom, and here comes the Grim Reaper who just wants me to hire them. You're the guy that lived through it.
Yep, you bet. And my hope in that is that others can use my experience, my neighbors' experiences to get their
Absolutely.
leadership compelled to take the right steps now so that they don't have to have their own story, right? If you can lean on your neighbor's story and not have your own story, that's better, right? So hopefully
Absolutely.
others can also join the collaborative story time and help us all to reduce the pain that our region has to go through as a result.
Kevin, you touched on Arizona, and they're one of the states that's a little bit ahead of the median in terms of that whole of state approach. I think Colorado, specifically led by Jefferson County in Colorado a number of years ago, really took the lead on a whole of state approach to cybersecurity. Chris, I'm excited to learn more about and what April's also mentioned, right? This kind of Washington effort. We're a little behind the curve on whole of state in Oregon, but we have some really promising things happening at the state level. And then we also have the ESDs who have a mutual aid agreement, essentially that, as the ESDs, it's the confidentiality, it's the indemnity, it's the, resources or products or equipment. And that mutual aid type of space is in that spirit of ACPE. It's in the spirit of what you've built from your incident, and then that paying it back. So one last thing, notes that I was taking as you were talking, both of you, Chris, the leadership element in your district, from how you started your story on that, essentially like do what you need to do. It sounds like it's now your superintendent, but what a gift it is in a moment like that to have that level-headed trust in each other and trust in a
Absolutely.
process, even if it's still emerging. And that strong leadership. There's the K-12 Tech Talk podcast, which is a few of our colleagues kind of in the COSIN land. I've been listening to it for years. And I think my favorite episodes have been the ones where they talked to the LA Unified CEO or CISO, I'm trying to remember. But the one that's most meaningful that I play for a lot of superintendents is a series of 4 clips from Scott Elder, who was the superintendent in the Albuquerque Public School District in New Mexico. Does this really graceful job of talking about, he said, my tech team and my tech leads, they're off doing their work. I still have to figure out how to run a district and to communicate with the community and to get out there ahead of the messaging and to figure out what the plan B is and what the plan C is. And so that strength in leadership, I think, is a through line that I'm noticing. And so well done to your leadership team and both your technical leadership team and your leadership at the district there at Edmonds. Yeah. Kevin, do you get to see a little bit of both, like the ones that have it together and the ones that maybe have it less together?
I will say real quick before Kevin jumps in, I do vividly remember our breach coach saying, I'm just happy that you are not yelling at me and cursing, because it sounds like that is the norm. So take it away, Kevin.
Yeah, it can be. It's different. And I will say, commercial enterprise is very different than a school district. On the commercial side, I have had many a conversation where in the middle of a call, I have stopped it and said, I need everybody to drop with the CEO. And I'm going to sit here, and it sounds mean, but I'm going to do a little chastising, because the organization can't see a panicker. That's not going to do anybody any good. And the organization can't see a blamer. That's not going to do anybody good. You've got to get the mindset right. I've seen school districts, most, I want to say, honestly, the vast majority of them, Chris, what you've described is what I've seen. From the superintendent to the assistant to area soups and et cetera, they tend to immediately silo themselves into run schools. And they have been very good about tech side go and then bring them in. I did have one district, and I wish I could say their name, because I thought they did a wonderful job. The superintendent, she very much understood we have to keep certain things. She was very focused on, I've got to be out in front of this, and did something that she had never done before, and started doing and releasing YouTube videos. She would do them every couple of days. She would send us her script. I would say, absolutely, I'm begging you, do not say this and do not say that. Some of the time she took my advice, sometimes she didn't, but she was so out in front in a calm, professional leadership type of way, and she knew her district, she knew her parents. And this was a large district. My district that I live in here is 93,000 students. I think hers was bigger, but she knew exactly what they needed to hear. So we worked together with her, and at first I cringed when she said this is what she was going to do. After I watched the first one, I was like, we're going to do this every couple days. I really like the way this is working. And it did. It allowed them to come out, because the media wanted to jump on it in a very negative way towards them. They were sort of stuck because the message is there, and it came from her mouth, and it was on video. So clip it, do it, whatever you want to do with it. It really drew the sting out of it and focused in the concerns of the parents, where we could then address myopic kind of issues based on the data that we were dealing with. And I thought it was wonderful. But she was also fairly new at her job as the superintendent, and I was blown away. I thought she did wonderfully. And my wife, I don't talk about my clients by name, but when I have a school district, she'll hear, because she'll normally hear me say, "Oh, my wife is a," and she goes, "Oh God, he's got another one." After she was getting ready to do the first one, I went in there. I'm like, "You are not going to believe what this woman is going to do. I can't. Like, this is going to be catastrophic." And then, like, after there, I'm like, "Oh, she put another video out. It was spectacular." So yeah, it can absolutely make or break it. But I've been screamed at, I've been cursed at. Most times it's early on, and it's one of those things where I'm like, "Go ahead, get it out. Are you done? Like, go swear, do what you got to do. Now it's time to go to work. Let's go to work." And that's okay.
So, Kevin, you touched on the superintendent and worry about doing the YouTube videos, but you touched on the fact that if we aren't the one telling the story and getting the message out there, the media is doing it for
Mm-hmm.
us. Social media commenters are doing it for us.
Mm-hmm.
And as I log incidents and try to turn them over and study them and pay a lot of attention to them, so that then I can be of good help to the districts I help support. I think that communication is one of those through lines to the incidents that you don't hear about years later as a cautionary tale versus those that you still hear about years later as a cautionary tale. And if I had to pick a couple of things, it would be getting out front from leadership, generally a superintendent or a board member who takes the role, and telling the story of the impact it's having, and that this is a crime committed against us.
Well, the other thing that I really like, I actually love about school districts, is you guys have awesome tools for communicating that I can use during an incident that most of my other clients don't. Like, you're used to sending out the big recorded message to every parent to tell them that school's canceled because we've got 12 inches of snow. I don't have that for a corporation to go to all of their clients or whomever we've got to talk to. And so there's a lot of different ways we can get messaging out, and we use it, but you have to be, again, you just got to be thoughtful and intelligent about what you're doing, and not reactionary and fearful and thinking I have to just say all of it at one time because the blowback is going to be a lot more harmful to you and to the recipient.
Chris, did you loop in a comms person early on? Was it your superintendent or district leadership? What did
Yeah,
that look like?
I was going to say, again, channeling that abundance of caution approach, we were pretty early on in communicating out to our community what we needed to legally to inform them that we believed that there was an incident. And that actually played to our advantage in the long run because it meant that our notification obligation had been met early on in a way that we didn't need to kind of do follow-up work 6 months later when the data assessment piece was all done, right? That said, you mentioned the communications person. We had a bit of a disagreement during our incident because they're in the know about everything, right? And I kicked them out of the room and they didn't like that. I was like, hey, I know that you feel like you need to be here so you can communicate. And I will tell you that you are not allowed here, but I will make sure you know what you need to communicate because I've got a breach coach who will help me to get you the information you need. I don't want you to be in a situation where you've heard something that you aren't allowed to say, right? So you're just not going to hear it. You'll hear what you need to say and you won't hear anything else. And that came through the COSIN course that we took. So credit to Amy McLaughlin and the team at COSIN for coaching up me and our leadership team so that we knew right up front, hey, comms is important and you're going to be in the room next door and we'll pull you in whenever we need to get something out and then you can go work on it and then we'll pull you back in when we have an update for you. And that strategy was really effective for us because it ensured that they didn't inadvertently overshare and it made us feel more comfortable in our safe space saying whatever it is that we needed to say, right? We put signs on the door. Unless you're a part of this team, do not enter this room. Knock, we will come, we will say, hey, who are you, what do you need? And then if you need to come into the room, you can come in the room. Otherwise, this is a closed space. So that worked out really well for us.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Mark,
I mean,
what was your experience like?
I was going to say, I think Kevin said to me, you did what?
Probably.
And I went,
not the first time someone said that to Mark.
No, never. But in this context, he was like, or you might have said, why did you do that?
Honestly, that's one of my catchphrases. Why would you do that?
I'm almost positive that's what it was.
And it's in that tone. You have to get the tone. Why would you do that?
I'm almost, that is now bringing up some really bad feelings for me. So thank you, Kevin, for that. But no,
pleasure.
we had a different type of situation that I'm not going to get into. I will say that, and this was something that Kevin told me, and I repeat this to other people, when the very first time we met and we went over what was going on in our school district, Kevin said to me, you are going to be an expert about data breaches and how to handle them by the time we're done. You're going to be an expert in Washington law when it comes to data breaches. And I will say that I'm not an expert, but I learned a lot, and it has come in very handy for me to do my job because I came from an elementary classroom. I was not an industry technology person. I taught kids. And so to serve in the role as CIO for as long as I have, I've had to pick up some of those pieces along the way. And this was a very helpful situation working with Kevin, which still had a very favorable result, which, very happy about. And that's a lot of why I wanted to share Kevin with everybody. He was just so helpful to us. And, and Chris just had such a very similar response. But what I kind of wanted to get at, and I want to say it might have just been in one of the casual conversations we were having because I blab a lot. At one point in time, Kevin, you shared trends and you were like, yeah, we keep a dashboard and we see trends. Would you be willing to share some of the trends you're seeing now?
Yeah, it's wild. I used to do it and I like to track it. And there are certain trends that just happen on an annual basis. Like I will tell every person that has a school district, whatever your start date is, that's when you need to be the most vigilant. I know it sounds really, really strange to think that there's some criminal on the other side of the world. Well, they know exactly when you're putting students back into a classroom. They know when your breaks are to some extent. They know that we're off for Christmas or winter break. They know that there's spring breaks and there's other fall breaks, whatever they are. Those are great times when there's less people and they know it's going to be incredibly stressful for you to get things ready for those students to walk back in the door. I don't think they know your testing schedule, but I'll be darned if this doesn't hit like right in front of testing week all the time. But those are annualized trends. It's not crazy to think of an annualized trend that shows up and all of a sudden we have a lot of CPA firms come March and April, and after the first extensions in July, right? I've got probably 5 CPA clients right now.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because they know.
And kind of coming, I just want to make a quick point about testing. One thing that and I know, well, I think Chris has rejoined the K20. I'm not sure if you're back in there yet or not, but the K20 is the ISP that almost every single school district and higher ed and library uses in Washington. And I've been on the network advisory committee for that for a number of years. We made a decision a number of years ago to put a head-end appliance to mitigate DDoS attacks. And that has been amazing. Like amazing. Even though we got hit with one at testing right in the middle of testing this last year, but it was so poorly done. Whatever kid did it probably only paid $5 for this one because it
only got 2 bots to go.
It just kept slipping through. And so it never took us down. It just was an annoyance. And so things wouldn't work correctly. And then we'd get flooded with calls from the classrooms. And then we just worked with the NOC at K20 and they said, yeah, we see it. This is weird. And then we mitigated it from there. But it's not the ransomware threat actors. In this case, it's our kids who don't want to test, and it costs them $50 and they pay for something to just attack us and just try to be a disruption. So there's a whole nother angle that we get to deal with that.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the big boys out there, what I would say is I started my professional career in military doing target intelligence. I've always liked, I like intel. I like that feed of information and knowledge, and I like trends looking across it. So what I will tell you is, when I look at a trend, I think of it over like 10 years, more of an evolution. What I see more often than not now is the ransomware guys, they're really out there looking for low-hanging fruit. I mean, they're opportunistic. I usually tell most of my clients, like, it's not as if they've been staring at you for 6 months thinking, ooh, I'm going to knock down Chris. Like, I got to get that guy. It's, they're just, you got any appliance that's on the internet, they will scan it and go, oh, look, that's got a vulnerability. And then they walk in and go, oh, cool, I found Chris. I don't know who Chris is. So we see a lot more of those CVEs being exploited now. In the last 6 to 8 weeks, you can read about it. Akira has gone absolutely ballistic, and I will tell you they've gone absolutely ballistic. The number of ransomware claims from really 2 to 3 groups in that window of time was just insane, and they were exploiting some vulnerabilities on a firewall, on a VPN appliance, actually. So you see those things, but a lot more of the vulnerability exploits. And the other thing I would tell you is we have such strong dependencies on 1,000 different SaaS platforms, and that's not bad. You're putting your stuff somewhere else, you're dealing with it, but I think it's most organizations just don't, going back to the tabletop again, I keep going back to it, but okay, suddenly I just turned it off. What do you do? How do you function? And they're like, you paralyze an organization because one of their primary SaaS platforms just went down. It's completely out of your control, by the way. So call them and scream at them for 2 weeks all you want, and it's going to come back up when they're done with their investigation. And then you can deal with the fallout of the data, which, by the way, is still your responsibility and obligation to notify. You saw a lot of that where, those guys are doing that because at the end of the day, all of the ransomware actors, it is 100% psychological, and there is a singular goal, and it's about how much money can we make. I hit a big guy like that that's losing millions of dollars in their customer base, maybe daily, maybe weekly. They might be more likely to pay me to try to do this a little bit more quickly than somebody else. It's always been the oddity of school districts where I go, clearly the bad guys know when you start school, they know what you do, but they have no idea what your budget is because they target school districts. And I go, you picked the wrong horse, guys. They're going to keep working. They're not going to pay you, and they're going to move on, and you've wasted time and resources. But I think those are the biggest trends I really see is the exploits or the vulnerabilities, I should say, are being exploited. And I just had a client that this threat actor found a vulnerability in a system that I can't even remember the name of it. I'd never heard of it before. And it was a vulnerability from like 3 years ago. And I want to say it was a mobile device management software. And randomly, that's what they got into. Later on, 2-3 days later, they were encrypted. The other final thing I would say, and Chris, I hate to do this to you because I think you're still coming off of your PTSD from yours.
Trauma.
But
Yep.
The one thing that I will tell you that has changed in Akira, I'll use them as the example. I have several of those matters that are now winding down where they were stole data and encrypted in under 2 hours. So the speed in which they can do it, the tooling that they'll use, things in place, that was always, no way, guys, come on. Like they've got to do, it's not always, but I've seen some that, I can look forensically and see the moment they walk in, and I could see the moment that encryption hit, and you're looking at a time clock going, that was like 90 minutes. And they also took 200 gig of data and walked out the door.
Wow.
So I think those are the biggest trends that I've seen is really the speed and the manner in which they're doing this. Phishing is always going to be phishing. Email compromises are always going to be there. As long as you have people, they are going to click. You can train them till you're blue in the face. My phrase I tell all my clients is awareness. Keep training people to stop doing this until they're like they vomit, and then train them again. It's still going to happen. But on the big deal stuff, really, that's what I've seen more of.
I always say it's as likely as it will be me on a day where, and I have a routine, like I've done it a million times and have muscle memory on it, but they catch you with the emotional response, a trigger to act quickly.
Mhm.
And so when we do our trainings and, we talk about the fact that there's no one immune to this. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I'm going to sell a trinket. I don't know if you remember I think it was Staples that had the easy button. I want to make one, and I just want to make it that just says pause. Because if anybody would just hit the pause button for like 5 seconds, they would go, oh, I've never been asked to do that before. Why do I have to? Let me just ask Chris real quick, or let me shoot an email over to Mark and make sure this is real. Pause will stop like 90% of it, but I've hovered over a lot of bad phishing emails where I was a millimeter away from hitting click, and I do this for a living day in and day out.
Yeah, absolutely.
They call me and I'm like, I'm already on my way to Safeway to buy the gift cards. Wait, did we need more? Is that what's happening?
It is an interesting challenge.
Send those to me, Mark.
We're doing the same phishing simulation that I know everyone's doing. We've been doing it for maybe 8 or 10 years. But I had a district leader who I've known for a long time, very upset with me like 3 months ago because he had this perception that he couldn't trust any of the emails in his inbox anymore because our phishing simulations are so genuine looking. And he didn't like my answer. I was like, that's exactly the point. You cannot trust any email in your inbox. You need to verify anything before you engage with it. Because if you don't, then you could be the one that puts us at risk or puts us in a bind. And he didn't like the answer, but I feel like that's the truth. And I think the systems that we have that can help us to test our staff and equip them with the skills to identify those emails, they're also better than they've ever been, right? And they're using AI and role kind of based emails that can make it very compelling, which is great because it puts our staff in a position to learn.
Yeah. Measure twice, cut once, pause button. I try to give people simple things they've heard 1,000 times. And if it stops one guy from doing it, then we win. It's all you can get.
And if we engender trust with our users, like, shoot, I think I clicked on that and I don't want to get in trouble, so I'm not going to say anything about it.
Huge.
And it misses our filters and our gates and all of the fabric that we've woven together. I still think that our humans in the system are our biggest asset, as much as we are going to battle AI with AI in terms of trying to get some of this stuff on the inbound before it's our users having to use their like pause button and measuring twice and cutting once. But then that ability to say like,
oops.
Yes. So that then we can then jump into, right, like investigation mode. It's a big piece of this as well.
No, I've always said that, and more so even on the commercial side where I've looked at people and said, I'll talk to a CEO, I'll talk to the CFO, the CIO, all the C-suite people and say, if you yell at one person for doing this, you should be fired. You can't do that. Like that person will now blow up your organization accidentally and not tell you. And you could have mitigated this back in 5 minutes.
And again, there is a criminal who is committing a crime. We are victims of crime, even if it's like, shoot, I should not have left that window open last night. Or shoot, right? I mean, it is, when you were talking earlier, Kevin, the idea of, I think the adage I've heard regularly comparably on this is robbers are either really smart. Essentially, when they're casing a neighborhood, if there's a lock on the door, they're going to go to the next door in most cases. Sure. They're not going to try to engineer like getting in a 3rd story window. So that idea of making it so that it is, please tell us. Now, I know we like to be real in ACPE. We also have those users who it's after the 17th time having a conversation with them, it feels a little harder to do than the first time. But that idea of it, it is like the human power is real on this, and making it this is a collective effort, and it's us against the bad actors, and not making the bad actors somebody in our organization who was just trying to do their job on a Tuesday.
And I think it's really worth noting, while our email listserv is so good and so people use it so much that even don't come to the conference, the Discord server is also incredible. You see people that I would never think would be sharing cybersecurity tips and warnings and threats that they're picking up. And quite honestly, I know we joke about this person every single episode, but Chris Robotham is constantly putting information out there.
Mark Elliott, that's like Chris
just
Bailey.
rolled
Did
off
you
the
hear
tongue.
that?
Furious right now.
Absolutely.
I love Chris.
He's been practicing. He must have practiced that.
And that's an inside joke, Kevin. Sorry, but he is a top contributor, and coming from a very small school district, and knowing that Chris was a band director, he is constantly providing information to our group through the Discord server, and that is again just the power of our organization and how we support each other. And just, you don't have to be, I mean, April's amazing, but you don't even have to be in April to be, providing some guidance to people through the things that you're reading and picking up on. Just thank you, April. Thank you, Chris. And thank you everyone else who helps provide a lot of that threat analysis that we get in the Discord server. So.
Yeah, and I'm just trying to think through things that have shown up that are different than what you normally see. I would tell you one other one that just came to mind is, and this is a technology thing, quite frankly, that, in schools now, technology is just, it's king, right? I've got my laptop there and I'm doing whatever lesson it is, and I go, hold on, let me Google this real quick, and I'm going to show you something that it's educational. The click fix scams are horrendous right now. And, everybody has seen the CAPTCHA box show up. And so it's super familiar. It again goes back to pausing, because they've probably never been told to hit Control R and enter a PowerShell script into the command prompt, but maybe they have. I have not. That would cause me to go, no. But they're just trying, because I've got 20 screaming kids behind me that if I don't do this quickly, I'm going to lose all of their attention. So I'm just going to do it real fast, and I'm going to go. You've just given access. Like, the access is now there. It's done, and it'll happen in an instant. Those type of things where I have a couple of clients now whose website has been hijacked for purposes of hosting that. So it is legitimate websites that they have used before. They're going to use again, and this just showed up. So it doesn't seem out of the norm, because they went to the site they always go to, and the threat actors are hijacking those to do that. That's a big one that I think everybody gets trained hard on email. Don't click, don't do. It's a different visual for them, and it's a different thing that I don't think they see as often, or that they're trained on as often, so they're more susceptible to falling victim to it.
It is just never ending. I mean, I'm Kevin, Chris, Rachel.
I have a job.
Yeah. Again, I come from the classroom. This is not my forte, people and systems that we rely on heavily for this. But do the three of you, do you have even a vision of what the next thing is gonna be? Like, what's the next attack vector going to be that we haven't seen before?
It's hard to say, because all I think about is all the ones I heard before, right? Everybody was terrified of the Internet of Things and like what's going to happen there. And it's, and you saw bits and pieces of it. I really still think, if I look at what what are the bad guys really wanting now? Where are they putting the pressure? There's a lot of them that aren't even encrypting. They're just stealing the data and using the data as the pressure point. So where, you saw the big breaches that involved SFTP sites, right? You saw MoveIt, you've seen, and there's been several other ones that were involved, where they can get, if I can get into here, I can have hundreds or thousands of victims, downstream, those type. I really do look a lot at those peripherals. I think that makes a lot more sense. Again, because if we start with the premise that these are opportunistic criminals, then they want bang for buck, to me, that's really the currently where it's sort of leaning. Personally, I think that's where it stays is, I need to find what is it that I can exploit that gets me the most victims and allows me to make the most pressure. You find one of the top name brand firewalls and you're the first one to know how to exploit it, you're going to have a lot of victims that aren't prepared because there's nothing for them to prepare. It's a 0 day. And it's worth them putting time and effort into that type. AI is probably the only other piece. And then, really where I've seen it is improved communications, whether it be phishing, spear phishing. I see it on the threat actor negotiation side all the time. Incredible how well written our chat logs are with the threat actors now. I mean, they have good grammar. They have better grammar than I have.
That's your first tip.
Yeah, I should start using it, I guess.
That's not what I was saying.
Oh, yeah, it's really interesting. I think, and that's, the more that you are able to empower AI to do the work of a human, if you can set that free to go try to exploit something, I think that really does change it. Is it something that you're going to see and know and understand that it's an attack vector? Not really, because you'll just be the one attacked. But I think that's where you'll see the changes on their side.
Yeah, I guess the thing I would add to that is obviously not being in their shoes. If I had taken 10 gigs or 100 gigs or a terabyte or 10 terabytes or more data, and I had access to an AI tool that could help me to understand where is the potential value here, that would be much more powerful for me than to have folders and files that I know nothing about. So that to me is the most potential for making the most of what they have from a financial perspective. I could very quickly see where is this victim going to be most vulnerable based on what I've done to them.
There are a few groups that do that. Very few.
Yeah. Chris, I was smiling, not because what you're saying was like, haha, or like, yay.
Well, that's good.
I was smiling because I'm going to layer on the two things that I was going to layer on to Kevin's. And now that you just, it's all coming together. I think I'm worried about privacy's been dead for a while. So in Oregon, we had our Department of Motor Vehicles breach that have impacted everybody with a license. And that one felt different than Change Healthcare and some of the ones that came right before it, because now they have my home address and my photo, right? And I think I would be less concerned if we weren't moving into this kind of international geopolitical space that we are around identity tracking and some of the darker side of this work that we're doing. And because some people, Kevin, you've touched it on a couple of times, like K-12 in some ways we're unique for sometimes how we respond in the positive, and other times like we're poor compared to Chase Manhattan and some of the other big players. But our goal is our students and their families. And part of that is their data and their identity. So I worry about that a lot right now. And seemingly month over month, I have a little bit more of a worry as facial recognition, camera feeds like that enter the chat. But then on top of that, and this is a little bit lighter moment because I think about this a little bit too much now, all of it. And again, a couple of Oregon colleagues are going to laugh. But any day we could wake up to the first quantum decryption, right? And there's a really great group doing work on this in terms of the amount of data breaches right now that you will never hear about, because what they're doing is they're taking those encrypted data sets and then essentially sitting them aside until, right, we're in that approaching that kind of post quantum era, and then decrypting those data sets. So I know it sounds funny. We're sitting here talking about K-12, but I do think this convergence of lessening privacy that we have as human beings and some of our past centuries where we've seen how that is never usually a happy storyline that we have to navigate ourselves out of, which we do, combined with getting really close to that quantum event and being able to possibly sit and decrypt lots of things that people have been sitting on quietly, according to some of the international security community. And so I have a macro worry about how all of this stacks together.
I think that's fair. I mean, I guess I take it from a little bit of a different perspective on the same front, though. I think because I look at the guys that are using psychology to try to get you to pay them for the data, I watch a lot of this and think, there are sites out there that you can do on open source that'll track all the groups and how many people are posted on there. And those are the people who didn't pay. The saturation point, I think it's a lot closer than people give it. to, I'll use myself. How many times can my social security number be breached? I mean, it's some like, okay, you have my social security. Like what, I think there's, you mentioned Oregon, Louisiana's DMV got popped too. Right. So there's all the people there. I have represented clients that were just so large within their state that our notifications reached somewhere between 85 and 90% of that state's population. I know what those data elements were. I won't say them because you could find those clients, but I'm just one guy that does this. There are a lot of lawyers that do this, and there are a lot of lawyers that do this for companies that never report. They pay, they don't notify, and that's a business call that they have made to go through. But all you see on the open source are the ones who made the decision, said, I'm not going to pay, put my name, put the data, and you think of the quantity that is there, and that also doesn't go all the way back. So I view it as there's only so much you can steal. Like how close are you to that saturation point today, as opposed to what are you sitting on in the future? And I think while privacy concerns me personally and for my clients, at some point, it's almost a recognition that a lot of that has already been eroded and you can't put that genie back in the bottle. It's sort of out there. And if you take that perspective, and I coach a lot of clients with this because their normal fear is, oh my gosh, well, what's going to happen now that this person does that? And I think, well, most of those people have had this happen to them 40 times in the last 2 years. And whether they know it or not, they've probably received notices on 10 of them. I can put them in a mindset of, do I really want to pay a criminal for a promise from that criminal who just broke in and stole stuff that he promises me he'll delete everything? And the saturation point is where I try to kind of focus them, at least to make an educated decision on it, not to do with notification. Notify, tell people, follow the law, do what you need to do. But I focus it on the payment side because the worst part of my job is sitting there on a Friday knowing that threat actors love to settle on a Friday and thinking that guy just got $1.5 million and is somewhere in the world having cocktails while I'm sitting on these calls at 2:00 in the morning.
Yeah.
That's a hard one.
I hear you, Kevin, especially on the cost benefit when we talk about the money and the theft. And I think what I'm starting to worry more about the protecting kids and families part of it, which has always been an element, but it feels like there are just these threads that are starting to weave together in a way that I don't know where to go with it yet, but I know that there's this next horizon that we're moving towards, which is about that, less about like what money somebody might want and other ways that folks might want to use this data. Not trying to head us down like a dark alley, but that is the thing that's starting to emerge for me is the thing to start listening and paying attention and being curious about.
Well, there's a lot of data that is out there, and I think you're spot on with what can I do with data that is not protected under a statute or a regulation. So how much data is there that people can weaponize where somebody never had to notify them because there was no statute that said they had to? And I think that's, Rachel, I agree with you 100%, especially when you're talking about family and children. I'm 51 years old. My data's been out there for a long time. I was in the military, and my social security number was my military ID that they made me put on everything. But I don't have one, but if I had a 4-year-old, theirs isn't. And their photo and their information, things that might not otherwise be protected in a similar fashion, those can be weaponized and in non-traditional or non-monetary ways that I think I 100% agree with you on.
I'm going to back us out of the alley that I did not plan on turning into, right? Like when you're in a city and you're like, I'm not going to go in that. But functionally, Kevin, what you just mentioned was one of the things that I did want to do a kind of informational update to the ACPE community on. And that's that April and I actually were on a call just this week where we got a little bit of an update on this notifications element that is coming at us in K-12. And that is that there's a federal law that passed in 2022. It's kind of referred to as CIRCIA, CIRCIA, and that's the Cyber Incident Reporting for Critical Infrastructure Act. And that's, again, was 2022, kind of sat there quietly. It went through lots of comment windows and rulemaking and all of that. We have an update that we are expecting in K-12 because we are part of critical infrastructure. In 26-27 school year, that we'll have 72 hours to report incidents via a secure channel. It applies to K-12 school districts as well as regional service agencies, so our ESDs and the ACPE community. And then if there's, and I don't have the language in front of me, but if there is a ransom paid or ransom involved in some other elements, it's actually a 24-hour initial reporting window. And then those initial reports, whether it's 24 hours or 72 hours, then can be amended as more information is gathered. The comments that I heard were we're all fighting individually against fairly collective communities of these bad actors. You've mentioned Akira a few times tonight, Kevin, that seem more organized than some of us in terms of the collective impact that we can have as states and countries and things like that. So for ACPE folks, know that we'll definitely, I'm sure, hear about it collectively. Chris Robotham will probably have some information ahead of everybody else and be sharing it freely. But in the moment, Kevin and Chris and Mark, yes, you should be working on the incident, not worrying about like sharing out too much, but these debriefs and kind of knowledge that these things are happening and the indicators of compromise and CVEs and all the things to watch for, we're better together.
Yeah, it's, the federal government has been they've been way behind on it and very segmented. You got the whole alphabet soup. I've got SEC does theirs, but I've got the FTC wanting their piece. I have HIPAA doing, HHS doing their side. I've got FSA doing their piece. You sort of run them around and they're trying to bring certain things in, and what you're mentioning on critical infrastructure. But I do think there's gonna have to be at some point, they will come out with some, and they've bantered it for a decade now, some overarching privacy legislation, some overarching reporting type. And I think the reason it hasn't happened is because all the agencies can't agree on who gets to be the big dog, who gets all of those. So we'll see what happens with it. States are doing a lot of it now, at least two of the states, mine being one of them, that are, at least for public agencies, for government agencies, are outlawing payment to threat actors now. That can put a huge strain when you have a competing statute that says, here's our public records law, and you're not allowed to lose that data. And now you have another law that says I can't pay to get it back and my backups were wiped. You can put a client in a really, really tight window there. And it's difficult, but those state statutes have a ton of additional reporting under them to various agencies. So I think you're going to see expansion of that probably, but it's the federal government, so I wouldn't expect it to happen anytime soon.
I was just going to add, in a large incident where individuals that reside in multiple states are impacted, it's the breach coach that's going to tell me exactly what I need to do. They know those regulations state over state, and it sounds like this new federal regulation is just going to be one more that they'll be coaching me on to ensure that we're compliant. So I'm not panicking about what you share, Rachel, because I know that if I'm ever in that seat again, I'll have someone in Kevin's chair who's helping to ensure that we're maintaining that compliance.
And I think, kind of reflecting our experience, Kevin was great to say, we're going to notify, but still it's not done. We have time to investigate this and we have time to work through this. And based on the things that we find, you have some time to, actually complete an investigation and determine, do you have to notify? How does this play out with the state? And that was a big relief to me, because the second we sent our initial notification to the state, I was like, oh boy, we're just going to get blasted now. And it was very reassuring to know that we could actually go through a process to determine, kind of that end result.
So Mark.
Yes.
It's approaching bedtime for each of us.
Well, it is funny that you and Kevin are on the East Coast, so it's midnight over there.
You have shown a level of commitment that maybe I didn't expect. So way to go. That's huge.
Mark, you lined us up with two amazing guests again for episode number 9.
I am really blown away by this one. It's been really fantastic. And I'm going to be totally honest. I didn't say a lot because I was I'm still learning from Kevin. He's still teaching me things. And, to be totally honest, I've used some of those skills recently at work. That was fantastic. And I'm happy to share with folks at the conference if you're interested. But no, this has just been terrific. And I knew that between Kevin and Chris, this would just be such a great episode from experience. It's nice to feature our members and our new board member, Chris, but it's also nice to get a perspective of somebody who is helping us and plays in a space that's just adjacent to us. And just a huge thank you to Kevin for the services that you and your law firm provide and others like you, because we would be lost. I mean, it's just so helpful to have, insurance and a group that can help us walk through those processes if we actually find ourselves in that situation.
Coaches
Absolutely.
and quarterbacks
Yeah.
is what I think we circle back to, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's my absolute genuine hope that come conference this year, both Kevin and Chris will be there, and maybe even doing this again. I think I'm not going to try and pressure Chris into this because maybe he wants to do something else. But what a great session this would be, that we could have our members asking questions as you're talking about this exact topic, because I think it would be very popular.
If Kevin is going to fly across the country to be there, I'm already going to be there. I would feel awful not doing it. So
I'm in. I just need dates. Tell me dates.
We got you.
I'm going.
Offline. We'll get you that information. So we'll just work our very, very best to convince our president, Steve Langford, that you have to be there. And now there's 3 of us that can attest to the fact that you need to be there. So
yes, you have my vote, Kevin.
I think it'll be great.
Yes.
But with that, if you have any last comments, it would be awesome. And, again, just thank you from us.
I guess
thank you guys for letting me jump on from the East Coast. My only last comment would be, I think that we should start this podcast at 8 a.m. Pacific time next time.
Brilliant.
Seems like a really good time to do that, but no, I really appreciate it. I love this. I think this is what you guys are doing is awesome. I know it seems like I'm going to put myself out of a job at some point by all of this, but knowledge is power in this, and the community that you guys are building and the information you guys are sharing is absolutely critical. I have amazing job security, unfortunately, but
so the more that people,
yeah, I mean, thank you for that, Mark. I mean, I appreciate the more time that people put in, the more they invest to learn and understand, the easier we get through things, and it becomes a ripple instead of a tidal wave. So thank you guys for having me.
Yes. Yeah, I would just add to encourage people to leverage ACPE, both our stories and our partnerships, and supporting one another as we're going through it. Don't hesitate to reach out if you're going through it, and don't hesitate to reach out to hear about our incident and others if that can help you to further the work in your district too.
And it's just as a reminder, you don't actually have to go to the conference to be part of our mail list and be on the Discord. You just need to work for a K-12 school district in a technology role in the states of Washington and Oregon. And we'll get you in there.
Up through 20. We've got universities included in that as well. Many of the folks who are ACPE, who are university, are actually people who worked in K-12 and then moved to universities. Yeah. I don't think that we get a lot of newcomers directly from the universities. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kevin,
well, thank you very much.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're going to
thank you guys.
And we're going to let you go.
Mark has a fancy
going to bed.
Mark has a fancy sign off for us that I missed the first time, so we're going to try this again.
Oh, am I doing that now? Are we going to let them stay for this? Oh,
I'm going to
okay.
put
we're
them
moving them back
so we get a second try.
Well, perfect. I mean, that was awesome. Our last 2 have been, I joke with people all the time, and so to our audience, I'm the one that goes out and tries to get the sponsorships, and people say, that sounds interesting. Does anybody actually listen to your podcast? And I'm able to say, yeah, actually, a lot of people listen to our podcast. We thought we'd get 40 people, but the numbers are actually really great. And it's because we have guests like this who are just so knowledgeable. And, Kevin has not been part of ACPE, but Kevin would be part of ACPE. You can tell that he would just be with us in our organization, just like the rest of us. And it's just a testament to show how we support each other and we share information, and just really what an awesome set of guests tonight, Rachel. I just thought it was so awesome. What were your thoughts?
Really, really awesome. I think all 9 episodes now have been amazing. We've learned a lot from the very first one. And you're right. This conversation tonight just kind of took care of itself. And it is a space that we're all just kind of living in right now, worrying over, learning about. So it's excellent.
Just one other thing not related to this I think is worth mentioning. It's going to happen. Rachel and I are working on this. We're going to do a fun scavenger hunt type of thing on the Discord channel, and you can participate in that, or even just jump into our Wordle chat channel and post your scores.
Yeah. That may be one of the challenges.
Yeah. So with that, Rachel, again, thank you for joining us from New York. It's quite a long ways away, but I am tired. I have had 8 principal meetings in the last 2 days. It's been a lot. And with that, I am unplugging from this podcast.